It's just math, y'all. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be starting our unit on polynomials. All right, polynomial functions. So here we go. I am sending out this Unit 3 objective sheet to everyone. It may look a little different from this, but this is where we're going to start today. Unit 3 objectives, polynomial and rational equations. So first of all, we've got a couple of definitions we want to go over. And then here is the basic outline for the unit. We go over polynomial functions. And the first type of polynomial function that we really spend a good bit of time on is the quadratic functions. And so we're going to spend some time on just them. And we'll do some applications with them. And then we will get into other polynomial functions where we need to learn how to do synthetic division. And then we will deal with polynomial functions directly. After we finish with polynomial functions, then we will hone in on rational functions. Okay, rational functions contain polynomials, so we needed to do polynomials first, and then we'll do rational functions. And so that's where we're going. So here we go. We're going to start out with just some basics, definitions and examples here quickly. A polynomial function is kind of if you saw one, you'd say, oh, that's easy. But if you saw the definition, the formal definition, you would think, I don't like polynomial functions. But here's what a polynomial function might look like. This polynomial function will say, I don't want that 2 right there. So let's say 6 minus 7x to the 5th plus 8x minus 2. Okay, so this is a polynomial function. It has degree of 6. And again, the 6 is coming from the highest power of x. The leading term is the 4x to the 6th. That's the leading term. The leading coefficient would just be the 4. And the leading coefficient, of course, is important for several things that we'll look at. Okay, and so that's what a polynomial function looks like. They can have simple ones, they can have more complicated ones. The ones that we're most familiar with is the quadratic ones. So, we've already done quadratics, and so you're familiar with a quadratic function, and so those are the ones we're going to start out with as the basic ones. But in general, polynomials have a degree, they have a leading term, and we want to learn all about them. Okay, so now the first and one of the main things that we like to do is find the x-intercepts. Right, these are also known as roots or zeros. Now, zeros is the most common term. Roots is not, but they're both the same thing. It's called a zero because when I plug in 0, I get 0. That's what you get when you x-intercept. When you plug in an x and you get 0 for your answer, then that is what we call a zero. Then that x is called a zero, or some people call them roots. Okay, and so an x-intercept is that point, because if you plugged in some number and you get 0, well, that's an x-intercept on the graph. And so these concepts should not be so foreign to you. Okay, now factors. Now you remember factoring from the quadratic, all right? And so polynomials can all be factored. Well, not really, but yes, really. But like, you can't factor them all by just using regular work or regular factoring stuff. It's not an easy thing to do, but they can be factored, and sometimes we write them in factored form. And so, for example, a quadratic, say the quadratic function, we'll do an easy one. There's a quadratic function. Well, I can write that one in factored form because this one I picked is easy. Okay, and so these are the factors. Now, every polynomial can be written in factored form. It's not always easy to do, but it can be done. Okay, and we won't try to do all of them. But anyway, so those are the factors. And then if we know the factors, we can find the zeros, because if I set each one of these factors, if I set it equal to 0, then I'm going to be finding the x-intercepts. When is it equal to 0? So then I would have x plus 5 equals 0, which means x is negative 5. And x minus 2 equals 0, which means x is 2. This is old math. We've done that. These are the x-intercepts, also known as zeros. And so we've done this with quadratics. We will eventually learn this with other polynomials. Okay, so these are just some definitions. I mean, these are the factors, and from the factors we get the zeros. And remember what a zero is. It's a number. When you plug it in, you get 0, also called an x-intercept. Okay, and so those are just some definitions and some things that we're going to be talking about. Okay, so in polynomial functions, obviously I've already started you with quadratics. The first ones that we talk about are the quadratics. Okay, and so we're going to be talking about graphs of quadratics. And so right here, A through D has it all spelled out for you. So I highly recommend that you print this document, and we're going to use this as a reference for the rest of our videos. I'm not going to try to write anything on here, but we're going to use this as a reference for our videos for the graphs of quadratic functions. Okay, so it's got your formulas on it, it's got your steps and everything. And so this is our first main thing we're going to do, is graph these quadratics. All right, so join us back on video number 2.